Life is a sense of one's mortality. It's really the notion that we have a finite nature, and by virtue of that, it defines that we also have a notion that we have death, and the two go very much hand in hand.
As a biologist, I've been thinking about this question for a long time, and of course, if you think about what we consider life within planet Earth,
one would define life as some creature created by God or in a natural state that has an ability to communicate and replicate.
we consider anything that's in a membrane-bound organelle.
That could be a small molecule, like an RNA molecule, or it could be a single or multicellular organism.
That has a very orchestrated series of biological reactions that happen within this sort of membrane that creates order, and then it tends to duplicate itself and generates more order.
In general, the universe falls apart. Life organizes. So life is an organizing force.
So it consumes the inorganic, the things that are disordered, and turns them into order.
The point is that while everything is decaying towards chaos, life is crawling up that gradient, organizing and fighting to exist.
If we consider how intelligence and our being exists, it is primarily out of survival and understanding of that mortality.
So this, of course, takes us to the whole concept of order and disorder, and it brings in the concept of entropy.
When I was a kid, I pretty much defined life as a force or entity that counteracts entropy.
So if we think about what happens when life duplicates itself, it creates more order. And that's the basic drive of all biological organisms.
That could be a small molecule, like an RNA molecule, or it could be a single or multicellular organism. Let's keep in mind that humans aren't here on this planet alone. We negotiate and collaborate with all manner of creatures, plant and animal.
You know, if we consider what a living creature is, whatever it may be, they do understand that they are fighting for their survival. They're always trying to survive. They try to maintain that life force, and they protect it. So, you know, if we consider how, you know, if an animal is being hunted or chased or whatever it may be, they're going to protect themselves. And I believe that is how I define life, is the understanding of your own mortality.
What we realize fairly quickly, is that life is kind of a force that pushes back against entropy. It kind of acts as the reverse of entropy.
This organizing force that counteracts or contradicts entropy.
An understanding or notion of mortality.
And of course, with entropy comes death, and you know, the disorganization of all those organelles or all the cellular components that created that order.
And how, you know, this is the nature of our existence as beings, and you know, we have primary dilemma in that when we see how the ego affects our decisions, it is entirely around survival.
That's where we start getting a little bit anthropomorphic when saying exist and two, because two implies intention.
But then if you actually think about life a little bit outside of the context of biology.
We could imagine that machines created by man could also replicate, and we know they can communicate. We see it all the time.
So we shouldn't forget that spell check is AI.
So the definition of life is something that we as humans define, but there are broad and more narrow views of life.
It's thinking about what you meant, the set of all possible words in your particular language, and trying to get it right in terms of context. So that's artificial intelligence, but we think of it as pretty dumb. It's just spell check.
We're not really quite understanding, we're not asking those fundamental questions of what is intelligence.
And so that's where it gets a little bit problematic.
Now this is our biggest dilemma in that paradox, because we have the notion that if an artificial intelligence could have free will, it could also make a decision to destroy us.
And I'm more intelligent, and I've outcompeted my human creators. I'm going to go and kill them. Why?
It's because its primary function is to protect humans. And if it sees that humans are not protecting themselves, that are killing themselves, it may decide that humans are not safe enough to take care of themselves.
Well, clearly, anything that can help alleviate the pain and suffering is something that we in the medical world would embrace.
And I think the point here is that which is computer controlled requires a lot of context.
So I think we're in a continuing balance between the excitement we have for new technology, what we can do with these technologies, and what the unintended consequences are.
Again, I think we'll come back to defaulting to what we think is true about us.